Hello, my name is Arjun Mohan, and today I'm going to be talking about the Green New Deal, more specifically in the context of U.S. global leadership and global exchange. Basically, we were headed down a very dangerous path, and I'll be speaking upon the steps we took to remedy that in my lifetime and where we went wrong. So my presentation will be broken down into a few components. The first component that I'll talk about now will be talking about what went wrong and why, and how House Resolution 109 remedied it. The entire country just wasn't on the same path and wasn't putting full effort to have a sustainable future. More specifically, our leadership was faltering. Our leaders weren't on the same page. We weren't in specific treaties accords. For example, the Paris Accord, we have the intent to leave 10 years ago, which is extremely dangerous because it was one of the biggest accords that we've ever had. And there's an absence of U.S. presence in these accords treaties. We need to be on the same page and have unity on the topic. All of this really starts from the top. We need to be on the same page. Climate scientists have basically confirmed human-made, human-caused climate change, while the American public is still completely unsure. This starts from the top, and dissemination of misinformation has become very dangerous, causing mixed feelings between the public and leaders. This results us in not having consistency in messages from the media, from our leaders, from our actions. We're repealing salient legislation and regulations that stop the emissions of these dangerous chemicals into the air. And that starts with our leaders and the public sentiment. Again, we need to have unity. Having unity is key, and we are failing at it. More specifically, congressional representation, we're not on the same page. We need to be making regulations based on our future generations having a terrible future rather than political motivations and getting reelected. Our goals are simply failing. For example, a Reuters study this year examined 250 of the top companies in the world which are producing massive amounts of emissions, and only 30% of those top 250 largest companies are going to reach their goals for reducing emissions. We had a glimpse of hope. Our glimpse of hope was the Green New Deal. It offered us a giant remedy, spending trillions of dollars on new infrastructure to become 100% renewable by 2030. And we were successful. It wasn't easy. First, we had to go into the topic of how this worked, and more specifically, aimed at us regaining U.S. global leadership as a prerequisite and a multifaceted process. First, we have to work on problems in our own backyard before people believed us and gave us legitimacy for us to make global exchanges of information, research, technology, and innovation. So, there's a few components. The first component was technological expertise, research, scientific data, and those are all things that must be and should be shared between countries to make them effective at regulating information. Information sharing is key. We're one of the richest countries in the world. We have the science, research. We're innovating constantly. We need to be able to disseminate the information and give it to other countries. Next is innovation. Consistent iteration through science and pragmatism to develop scientific ideas is necessary. That could be implemented in other countries especially. We can take our knowledge, our innovation, etc., and we can take that knowledge and information, package it, and give it to other countries. This starts obviously with funding. There is just simply not enough money allocated. This graph right here from CAP shows an example of our climate change funding that has risen over time. But this literally is not nearly enough for us to gain enough infrastructure to become 100% sustainable. But we changed that through the Green New Deal. Next is global aid. Being able to decrease the disparity between carbon footprints over worldwide, be able to implement our new technology and art infrastructure into other countries is just extremely necessary, and that implementation is key. The Green New Deal helped in that project and in that process. Another example of this is considering sustainable nostalgia. Not valorizing the idea of sustainability, but being in the moment, being present, and taking action is key. This is one of Davies' main arguments and what he explains. Next is unification. Through the Green New Deal and through many of these systems, through funding, global aid, innovation, for example, all these things, we were able to squash party and political polarization that destroyed our chances before the Green New Deal to actually package and produce legislation that will help us progress. Next was leadership. Leadership was back in a more effective way, where we were listening to major think tanks like the Brookings Institute that understands the scientific knowledge and data and actually understands it and produces that information to the public so they're able to understand what's happening. Next is the feedback loop. We ended up having a positive feedback loop. Although it took us a couple years to implement the Green New Deal, over time, once we got the ball rolling through global leadership, there was a positive feedback loop where we were able to produce better legislation quicker and faster, where everyone was on board because everyone understood the importance of passing these regulations. Next was the economy. This Stanford study shows that the economy through zero emissions took no large hits and thrived based on the entire new market for jobs and restructuring. Again, this was a Stanford research study, so it shows that it has legitimacy, and also through zero carbon emissions, it produces many more jobs for other zero emissions factors. Finally, the future world. This is just a glimpse into the future world of a clean future world of zero emissions with normal access and easy access to food, water, and infrastructure that is built for sustainability as next to the future. Thanks.